If you know anything about KSP, then you've probably heard NASA people say, well, it worked in KSP, and that's probably not far from the truth, as NASA and Squad collaborated on their asteroid redirect mission. Also, you probably heard that Elon Musk uses Kerbal space program, and although they landed the rockets first, they're not the first ones to do a reusability space program. So what do Kerbals use? Well, I'm here to tell you they use Spaceflight Simulator, and this is it. It's a 2D game, it's free for Android and iOS, and soon to be on Steam at some point. And like in KSP, you can go ahead, build your rockets to your heart's content, send them up into space, land them, send them orbit, send them into the sun, crash them if you want. This game is also still in development, so you can expect future updates, with Steph, the main developer, taking on ideas from places like Discord, Reddit, and even on live streams. Now, this is a game that is worth just downloading because it's free, and although I have to mention that you do have to pay to unlock the larger parts on the Android and iOS devices. However, I have to state that he did say, the developers, that all future parts that are added to the game will be free after you've paid that one fee to unlock the larger parts. So it's well worth it in the end, because as you can see, I'm using the larger parts on this rover, which we're going to be sending to Mars, no less. And like in KSP, first thing you have to do is get into orbit. For those who are not used to Newtonian physics in these games, it's quite easy. It's just knowing what to do. First off, you have to get yourself out the atmosphere. And when you're out the atmosphere, all you have to do is thrust in the direction you're traveling, or more or less, to get yourself into an orbit. As you can see, we've reached a low Earth orbit. Now it's time to plot our course to Mars. This game is quite easy because all you have to do, especially in the Android and iOS devices, is tap on, say, like Mars to select a target. And this is one of the neatest things I like about this game, is that it shows you where you have to burn to be able to get to Mars. And if you mess up, you don't have to worry, because what you can do is save the game before you do your burn towards Mars or wherever, and then reload the game and try again, which is one thing that's cool about KSP, is that you can fail and retry until you get it right, until you work out where you went wrong, which is, well, basically what you do in life, in truth. Anyway, let's talk about what we're doing in the video. First off, you saw me fast forward time until Earth was in the location where we had to do the burn. That's the highlighted area, and now all you have to do is wait until the spacecraft is in the location that is highlighted, and then burn prograde, or for those who don't know what prograde means, is the direction that your rocket is going while it's in orbit. All you have to do then is burn while we're in this section, and we'll be on our way to Mars. Now, within the game on Android and iOS, all you have to do is tap the screen, and it's really easy to control. Although on the smaller screens it might be a bit hard to work. As you can see, all I did was click on the part to decouple the rocket that spent its full fuel, click on the rockets that we want to activate, and then turn on the thrust again. You can vary the thrust, which is cool. As you can see, we're approaching Mars, so we want to slow down because we're on a sling past it. And then we have the indicated area, how the distance that will be from it. Now, you do have to play around with this. As you can see, I'm burning. We're going over the orbit where Mars is, but I have to burn a bit more just to get the encounter. And once that dotted line disappears and you get no further orbit line, that means you're going to intersect. So focus in on Mars, do a really slow burn. 0.1 I think I do, but still it changes the orbit quite a bit. And what we're going to do is just get close enough to Mars. We're going to crash into Mars. We have to adjust our orbit. Luckily, not only do you have rocket fuel in this, you have RCS and rover wheels, which is cool. They can just rove around the planet. Normally in Kerbal Space Room, I would use RCS to do light adjustments on our orbit. But as you can see by here, it was a bit too much. In fact, it was so much that I just waited until the orbit slowly adjusted itself until it was above the atmosphere of Mars. And then fast forward time, which would lock the orbit in position. And then all you have to do is fast forward time until you approach Mars. You can see we've entered the sphere of influence. And if you've played KSP before, to get into orbit of somewhere, all you have to do is point in the opposite direction that you're traveling. And that will reduce your speed and that's all you need to do, is to get into orbit. These are the things that NASA do, although this is more on a simpler scale. This will get you to understand the basics of orbital mechanics and how NASA does it. In future updates of this game, you'll be able to have astronauts. I don't think that'll be in the next update, but it'll be in a future update, or at least it's planned. Also, what I'd like to see in this game is a collaboration mode. Now, a planned future feature would be to upload your crafts and to be able to download them from some sort of workshop and then use other people's designs. What I'd like to see though is be able to download other people's saves, or collaboration mode, where you send someone your save where you've built part of a station, and also then they can send up their modules, and perhaps you could have a whole load of friends to build a space station. Also, another idea which I'm not entirely sure how it would work, in Kerbal there's been a DLC where people can create a mission for other people to do, like you have to go to Mars and build a space station in orbit, or you have to land on the planet and return to Earth safely. But perhaps to make it a bit more challenging, you could add a budget to your rocket that you can build. Something like that would be cool. However, I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm not entirely sure on what the devs are planning or what inputs they would like to do in the game. But as you'd probably noticed, when I was coming down, there was a bit of a bug where the parachutes were pointing in the opposite direction that we were traveling. I'm not sure if that's a bug, but I think it needs looking at. Anyway, let's get our rocket home. I have to mention that upon building this, all I did was make sure that I could get into orbit. I was not sure if it would land on Mars safely, which it did, except the landing legs exploded, and would it be able to return safely. Well, let's check out the rover, which cool, it works. Do note that in future updates, electricity will be added to the game, so you'll have to watch your charge when you get into space. Make sure you got solar panels, or I'm not sure if rockets will charge your batteries like in Kerbal. Anyway, let's get this into orbit and then see if we've got enough fuel to get this home. I'm a bit worried because we're almost at half a tank and we're not fully in orbit yet. Right, we're in orbit, and now all we have to do is plot a course home. So again, like before, zoom out, select Earth, and like last time, you should have a highlighted area which you burn. This time, you basically burn in front of the planet the direction it's traveling, and what this does, it uses the gravity of the planet to slow you down. And when we were getting from the Earth to Mars, we'd be on the opposite side, so that planet Earth, the gravity would be pulling us along in the direction it's traveling, giving us a boost so that we can get to Mars. And this is the way that orbital mechanics work. It's also a similar effect that they use for gravity slingshots. And that's why I reckon this game makes understanding orbital mechanics that little bit easier. More so than Kerbal Space Program, because you've got the extra dimension to worry about in Kerbal Space Program. But however, it looks like we had enough fuel. And you see I've altered my orbit so that we would just touch the atmosphere, we won't hit the ground. We'll have more atmosphere to slow our rocket down, because atmospheric drag does work in the game. And we're out of fuel. Ditch the fuel tank and rocket, and then open up the parachute. Also in Kerbal, like in Kerbal, the parachute's half open until it gets to a certain height. Mission control, we have returned to planet Earth. Welcome home, boys. Yay, touchdown! Hey. Okay, so this game probably doesn't give you the same feeling as you would in Kerbal, but you can do some cool things. Like, I've released a tutorial for Kerbal building a single launch space station. So I decided, can we do this in this game? And here we are. We have a rocket with loads of modules around it. Get ourselves into orbit. Now I have to say that this took a lot of fuel just to get into orbit, because with these tanks, I've added fuel tanks as the modules for the space station. However, I cannot empty them. So they're going to be full, they're going to be heavy. And then I found out that I did not have enough rocket fuel to get into orbit. So I had to use the RCS. Luckily, strangely, I just had enough RCS to get into orbit. But bearing in mind, you have to use the RCS to be able to dock your spacecraft to move them around. So now that we've undocked everything, use the RTS, try to get used to the controls. Dock the module, make sure they're lined up because it's a bit tricky, but they automatically dock. Detach the rocket, and hey presto, we have our space station. Another thing I thought of doing, now I tried this in Kerbal Space Drone, but I didn't have much success, and that is litho braking. If you're unsure what litho braking is, it basically means that you hit the ground to slow down. And NASA have actually used litho braking on some of their rovers. Basically, they put them in bouncy balls, slow them down enough, release them, and the rovers would bounce in their bouncy balls until they came to a stop. And, well, damn it, we've lost the rocket. It sort of worked. And if the space probe survives, I'm going to say this is a success. However, will it survive? Okay, surviving and... okay. Failure, damn it. But if you fail, try again. And this time, try bigger. And as you can see, this is a large ball. Hopefully it'll hold up. Now we're traveling at 500 meters per second. I used the rocket to slow down slightly, but only slightly. And hey presto, we survived. And this slogan says it all. I break for lithospheres. I'll have to try this experiment again and see what I can come up with and how fast can I impact before the entire rocket is destroyed. Anyway, I'm Orbeta. Go ahead, download this game because it's free and trust me, I'm an engineer.